From the Digital Media Center on the campus of Southern Oregon University in Ashland, Oregon. This is Ramping Up Your English, an educational program for intermediate level English language learners. Here's your host for Ramping Up Your English, John Letts.
Welcome to Ramping Up Your English, winner of the 2017 Southern Oregon Television Award for Program of the Year and the Best Education Show. Ramping Up Your English is an educational support program for intermediate English learners. It's a program for people from all language backgrounds. Ramping Up Your English is also for people of all ages. If you've already passed the beginning stages of learning English and you want to reach higher levels of proficiency, this program is designed to meet your needs. We take a content-based approach to helping you reach higher levels of English proficiency. Our current thematic unit is Animals. This is segment 1 of episode 75. In episode 74, we interviewed the producer and host of a TV program entitled Getaway Girl. Regina Eyre shared her trip to Africa that she took with the National Geographic Society and her encounters with chimpanzees and gorillas. Now, during the production of that episode, we learned of the passing of Coco the gorilla. Coco learned to communicate with researchers using sign language. Now, for once, we had at least a small answer to the question of what these large apes are thinking. Coco is best remembered for communicating a very human-like emotion. Researchers working with Coco demonstrated that gorillas had emotions that they could express. Coco expressed sadness at the loss of a kitten that was Coco's pet. Now, the opening of the revolutionary idea that other animals were bound to have feelings as well, we owe Coco a great deal for opening the emotional life of animals to the awareness of humans, many of whom found it convenient to assume that animals had no emotion. My emotions turned to sadness at the loss of Coco. Beginning with episode 33, we've been using the unit on animals to model and practice higher levels of English. We've also encouraged viewers to research and report on an animal. In this episode, we review that project and refer viewers to the episodes where the report topics were taught. Let's get right to work on the review. Let's look at the topics that should be included in a report on an animal. You'll want to describe the subject of your report. You'll want to show how your subject is classified, in which group of animals does it belong. The range and distribution of your animal, where does it live? The habitat, what kind of area supports the life of your chosen animal? Now, your report should include the diet of your animal. What does it eat and where does it fall in the trophic levels? You'll want to report on the animal's reproduction, its mating, and how it cares for its young. Be sure to report on the animal's physical and behavior adaptations. The conservation status of your animal should also be addressed, and some special things about your animal in your animal report. Now, as I recently stated on our unit in Animals, that began with episode 33, which introduced our unit with a look at horses. We didn't announce the project to research an animal until much later, but we began describing farm animals in episode 40. Plus, we began using farm animals as a starting point for describing wild animals in episode 43. Episode 50 goes deeper into description skills. Now, here are some of the concepts we developed over several episodes to describe the animal you're researching. If your subject is in some way similar to a domesticated animal, you can point that out. Domesticated animals are likely to be familiar to a reader or listener to which you're communicating. Now, features like size and color and body parts helps form an image or picture in the mind of those who report or hear your report. Now, distinguishing physical features like the trunk of an elephant further support that mental picture. If the body or body part corresponds to a basic geometric shape, say so. You'll also find words like wide, pointed, massive, skinny, short, tall, wrinkled, and other descriptive words helpful. When it comes to classification, that information is fairly easy to come by. All animals are classified as either vertebrates or invertebrates. The vertebrates have backbones. Vertebrates are divided into major classifications of fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, depending on the number of traits in combination. Now, if you're in elementary or middle school, this may be as far as you need to go in classifying your subject. If you're in secondary or post-secondary, you may need to go further in classifying your animal. For some detailed classification, these wildlife cards list information at the top of the card, including the order, family, genus, and species. An article in an encyclopedia or on Wikipedia would have the same information. Now, for those basic classification levels, this book, Record-Setting Animals, has small cards on some of these amazing animals, and they're grouped by basic classification: fish, reptiles, mammals, birds. They list a few facts about the animals on the back of the card. Now, you may need to review our lesson on basic classification. That's episode 53. It features a step-by-step process in determining the classification of the animal you've decided to research. Visit letscreate.org and navigate to the episode 53 page. You can watch the episode there or just review the learning materials used in that episode. Now, in your report, you'll also want to show where your animal lives. Now, this is the range of the animal. Notice the geographic terms in this listing. If you're not familiar with terms like tropical and subtropical, you can still find the countries listed here. Now, one fun way to become familiar with the location of countries and states is to put together a map puzzle. Now, that's what Will Wass and his friends did with the United States map after performing at RVTV Studios.
The bee makes some honey from the tree, and then the bear eats the honey from the hive.
Oh, they're double-sided. They're double-sided. Which side do you want to do?
Oh,
They're double-sided.
I think one's the globe and one's the United States. So let's
No, if this is Maine or not.
One's the globe and one's the United States. That one's the globe because that's Russia.
No, this is the globe.
Oh, mangoes. Oh no, wait, what?
This is the globe. This is the globe. See?
What's this? Argentina. Okay, wait. Yeah, that's the United States. Yeah, one side's the. What about? Because look, Atlantic Ocean.
Wait,
Look, try to find these one.
Look
Guys,
the back.
Guys, try to find
Yeah,
these pieces.
do the front. Oh my front.
Okay, those two United States. Excuse me.
I have the United States.
Okay, the United States is together. Okay.
Of the 13
I got
original
Nevada.
colonies.
Nevada.
Hey, who wants to sing the song of this in 50 states?
I don't know the song.
Oh, 50 nifty United States of the 13 original colonies. Shout 'em, scout 'em, tell all about 'em. One by one, into the blah 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana,
Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine,
Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan,
Minnesota, Mississippi,
Missouri, Montana,
Nebraska,
Nevada,
New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico. Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Florida, South Carolina, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas,
Here's where we live.
Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin,
Tell me if you find Nevada.
Ooh, I got this.
Nevada.
I didn't even realize I got this. Dimple, I got this.
Nevada. Found it.
Oregon.
Now that's learning the fun way. You might also enjoy looking at an atlas. And if you like maps, you'll love an atlas. It's a collection of maps. The more you know about the way the world's laid out, the better you'll be able to know where the subject of your research can be found in nature. I used to spend hours just looking at maps. No one asked me to. I just enjoyed looking at maps. Reading and understanding a map is an important language function. Now, if you have experience with maps in your first language, you'll be able to find your way on a map in English. There are so many graphic clues. Now, this map shows the range of the gray fox. When I visited the ancient Mayan ruins at Tikal, I saw gray foxes lounging around on the ruins. Can you identify some of the countries that are in its range? Look at the parts of the map in red. Episode 51 goes into detail about range and distribution. A topic that's often confused with range is an animal's habitat. Now, thinking of that gray fox and the map you just saw, ask yourself, what kinds of habitats within that range would supply the needs of a gray fox? Now, that could be very challenging since this range covers everything from mountains to swamps, deserts to coastlines. The gray fox has the same habitat needs as all animals. It needs food and water, shelter to escape bad weather and raise young and avoid predators, and enough space to meet those needs. Now, the range of an animal can sometimes tell us about the habitat it needs. Notice that all those details have to do with woody growth. So that's the kind of area where the gray fox meets most of its needs. Most animals need a certain habitat in order to survive. A river otter can't survive in a streamless desert. A humpback whale can't live on a mountaintop. And an alligator can't survive in the Arctic. These habitats all fail to support the animal I just paired with them. To learn more about the complexities of habitat, let's watch this video about the habitat needs of a bird called the tufted puffin.
A look at tufted puffins and the places where they live illustrates the importance of habitat. This puffin shares a rocky ledge with murres, a bird that shares this habitat with puffins. Both species need this rocky environment to protect their eggs and their chicks against predators. It's basic knowledge that a habitat is where an animal gets 4 universal needs met: food, of course, as well as water, shelter, and space. Now, seeing this avian life in these surroundings, you can discover some of the complexities of habitat. While both kinds of birds are found near water, they need time ashore for even the mundane tasks of drying their feathers and preening. Being near fish-bearing water is also essential to tufted puffins. Now on this one we see the blonde tufts curled back to attract the mates. The tufts are part of the mating plumage and the namesake of the tufted puffins. These birds of the water need the rocky cliffs, the solid ground, where they can lay their eggs and keep them warm and protected, while their mate brings them food back from the nearby water. Their massive bills can carry several small fish at a time to feed their nesting mate and later their chicks. So the rocky shore is vital to the tufted puffin, but so is the nearby water. Puffins are coastal birds. See how the water and the rocky shore function together, how the puffin needs both for its habitat. Here it leaves the water to enter a sheltering hole in the rocks. After being sheltered ashore as an egg and as a chick, this immature puffin finds its comfort zone in the water. Now, as it matures, the puffin will spend most of its time in the water, but its habitat needs are not all met in the sea. These puffins swim in much calmer water than they would in nature. They're living at the Oregon Coast Aquarium in Newport, Oregon. Listen to the reaction of the aquarium visitors, including a toddler, watching the puffins swim.
Oh man, this is like my new favorite thing. Play in the water. Don't. You be nice to that boy.
While the aquarium hasn't brought back the waves, they had to take into account all the habitat needs of the tufted puffins. Water is supplied in abundance, food is injected into the environment, and enough space is provided for healthy life. The rocky cliffs provide shelter, helped no doubt by the huge overhead net to keep predators out. Another way the aquarium mimics nature is the inclusion of other coastal species, often seen in the wild with puffins.
You're watching Ramping Up Your English, and we're reviewing our project of researching an animal of your choosing and writing a report on it. This is segment 2 of episode 75. We're focusing the report you're writing on your animal of your choice, and episodes 51 and 52 are both about reporting on an animal's habitat. You'll find them along with episodes, well, all of them, of Ramping Up Your English at my website, letscreate.org. Once you're there, go to the Animal unit and navigate to episode 51 and 52. Your report should contain information about your animal's diet, what it eats, and where your animal is on the food chain. Now, cards like these can be helpful in laying out the food chain that affects your subject. Here's an example of a food chain. We began with a producer. In this case, it's a tree. Now we have our primary consumer, a squirrel. It eats the nuts produced by the tree. Now, the squirrel is eaten by the fox in this food chain. So if your chosen animal is a fox, this food chain would do a good job of showing how the energy of the sun is passed from the tree to the squirrel and then to the fox. Now, since the fox is not an apex predator, we included a cougar as a tertiary consumer, eating the fox. Let's watch this English language learner using these cards.
The bee makes some honey from the tree, and then the bear eats the honey from the hive.
These cards can make a fun game where players take turns playing a card on a food chain if they can, sort of like dominoes. Now, your report will be enhanced by relating how your chosen animal gets its food, as well as the trophic level your animal inhabits. If your animal is an apex predator, You can learn about how predators are important to maintaining balance by watching episode 54. The whole episode's about wolves. Episode 57 is about diet, focusing on animals that live in Africa. Now, for another research topic, episodes 60 and 61 focus on life cycles, another essential part of reporting on an animal. The life cycle refers to the number of sequential steps in the development of an animal. The appearance and the physiology of some animals make radical changes as they go through these steps. In episode 61, we witnessed the full metamorphosis of the monarch butterfly. Now, while the changes experienced by some insects are astonishing to witness, other animals go through changes as they develop and mature. Today, we're fortunate to see the stages of a bird called the little blue heron, from egg to mature adult. Let's watch these images provided by Susan RUE of Mobile, Alabama.
In Mobile Bay, Alabama, there's treasure. We'll share some of that treasure today. I don't refer to anything left behind by pirates. No, this has much more value. Living treasure in the form of an uncommon heron. There's a species called the little blue heron. And thanks to a bird lover and photographer named Susan RUE, we get to witness the whole life cycle of the little blue heron. As with all species, we can begin the cycle with the pairing and mating of a male and female. The female lays a group of eggs called a clutch. She sets the clutch of eggs and guards them in the nest. After an incubation period, chicks hatch out of the eggs. The chicks wait in the nest for food to be delivered from a mature heron. The chicks have only downy feathers until they get their flight feathers. That's when they explore their world beyond the confines of the nest. Their white color shows that these herons are still not mature. We see the success of their rearing, all 5 eggs producing a juvenile heron. They explore the reedy wetlands they'll depend on for their survival throughout their life cycle. Their plumage turns blue as they mature. By now, they've learned to take care of themselves. They'll begin the life cycle anew when they find their own mates. Now they fly away to that important function of renewal for the population of little blue herons.
All around us, animals are going through the stages of their life cycles as we experience our own changes. Episode 62 focuses on the fascinating life cycle of the salmon. That episode also features how to use facts about an animal's life cycle while using our own connecting words to communicate about that process. Again, all episodes of Ramping Up Your English can be seen as free video on demand at letscreate.org. You'll need to navigate to the home page of the episode 62 page in the animal unit, along with links to the episodes. All the learning material is posted on this page, including those all-important connecting words. As I've often said in previous episodes, you'll elevate your English proficiency much more by struggling to communicate the facts about your chosen animal than to just copy the words from your source. Remember, facts from the source, wording from your own brain, using the connecting words that fit what you're trying to communicate. Now, don't worry about writing a perfect report. Mistakes are to be not feared. They're not to be feared, rather to learn from. You'll get better with experience, and you have already ramped up your English by struggling to report information in your own words. Now, with the life cycle of your chosen animal, we've covered half of the information that should be in your report. There's more to cover, and we'll continue sharing the episodes where we learn to ramp up that English to higher levels while reporting on different aspects of your chosen subject. We'll continue to do that in episode 76. Now, this review of the Animal Report Project includes a dizzying list of past episodes that focus on different parts of the report. Don't worry about remembering that information. I've posted it on a chart on my website, letscreate.org, that correlates those episodes with report topics. Visit the website for all the support materials for this episode, as well as all episodes of Ramping Up Your English. I'd love to hear from you and see how you're progressing with this program. Send an email to letscreatepro@gmail.com. You can watch and even download all episodes of Ramping Up Your English at archive.org/details/roguetv. Use the search box by entering Ramping Up Your English. You'll find all the episodes there. Ramping Up Your English can be seen in Ashland on Channel 15 or 115 of the Ashland Home Network, and in the rest of Southern Oregon on Charter Cable Channel 182. Showtimes are 8 a.m. on Mondays and 7:30 p.m. on Thursdays. Visit rvtv.sou.edu for free live streaming. Showtimes will vary with different areas. Check your local public access and education stations. I want to thank my director, Denise Ross, and my talented and dedicated crew, and I want to thank you, our viewers. All of you help make this program an award winner. Join us next time for Ramping Up Your English. I'm John Letts.
You've been watching Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate level English language learners. Learn more. Visit our website at letscreate.org. You can also watch or download today's program at archive.org/details/roguetv. Join us next time on RBTV Voices for Ramping Up Your English.